the good guy rule goes so long. You can have winners and losers. The wind blows a bunch of different ways, and sometimes it's in your face and timing and cycles and stuff. But if you're around good people you believe in, who work hard and do the right thing, at the end of the day, you're going to sleep well.
All right, we are back for another episode of Under the Number. Today, we are joined by the eldest brother, the first family of football. We got Cooper Manning joining the podcast. Cooper, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
I'd do anything for your mom. When I run into her at a crawfish boil and she says, my son needs to talk to you. Why don't you be on this podcast? I was just like in mid, just teaching someone how to eat crawfish in Charlottesville. And I was like, done. No problem. Anything for Lizzie Lane.
Can't have a better salesperson than your mother out, working it for you. So yeah. I appreciated that out of mom. Shout out to my mom. But no, thanks so much for doing this. And we were just talking off camera. I just missed you by one day. I wish we could have done this in person. I was just down there in New Orleans running around the French Quarter, a lot of the spots, probably hitting a lot of the spots where you've done some Manning hours in the past. So 24 hours off.
I know. I'm so much better in person, but you're going to have to make do today. I know.
I think we'll manage. So, this podcast, we've kind of narrowed it down in what we're calling season 2 here. And we've talked to Marcus Colston and Austin Eckler and Christian Ponder and plenty of others that have yet to be released for season 2 that have already been recorded. But looking at kind of the business of sport, and this Manning family brand is something. And I think it's, 25 years in at this point and really longer, going back to Archie and the influence that he had in his days with the Saints. A little bit of a different landscape from a business. He wasn't an Instagram influencer in the 70s. But my first question is, how do you all find the hours in the day to deal with and keep track of all of the things that you, your brothers, your father, your mom when she's making a cameo in a Caesars commercial? How do you guys manage all of it?
It's not that hard. I mean, you really put your priorities first, and that's always been, kiddos and their athletics and their academics and your family. And then it's funny, I'm in the spot now with all 3 kids in college, and now we have so much time to do whatever you want. So it's a whole new paradigm, but it's really not that hard. You spend more time on things you like to do, and then you kind of weed out things that aren't that fun, and you have a lot of help. We have a lot of smart people around us that can kind of take care of some of the dirty work and let you kind of pick and choose what you're better at and what you enjoy most.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of specifically on that question, how do you guys handle inbound? Because it's hard to find a company that wouldn't want you guys to be involved. And I'm sure there are people behind the scenes, but is there kind of an approval process? How does it work?
Well, it's funny, everybody does their own thing. First of all, Peyton, Eli, and I are all, just independent guys. Sometimes, one of us does something, some of us 2 of us, some of us 3 of us, and some of us none of us. There's not really a list of protocol that we follow if something is interesting, and we all get along real well. We talk a lot and collaborate, and there's not, I'd say more often than not, Peyton has something interesting he's doing or something he needs to make a speech on. He'll reach out to me or even reach out to some of my buddies, some of his high school buddies, and say, how do I juice this up? Or Eli say, how do I make this funny? Or, what do you think? Should I do this? So we kind of lean on each other for different things. And I lean on them a ton. I go, look, I'm going here. I need to get in touch with this guy. Do you know him? I don't, but I can get you, and so it's nice that we all kind of use one another appropriately. But if there's inbound, someone wants to, I'm trying to raise money for a new, whatever, some sort of technology or something that we're not necessarily good at. We have several people a couple in particular that are really good at screening things and saying, this might make sense. This looks like it could be interesting. We should probably take a meeting. So, open for business, but, certainly not afraid to say no.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's also, I was thinking about it. I mean, at this point, Peyton being, even early in his career, he was in, I remember being 7 years old and seeing him in a Sprint commercial holding the flip phone with the fake mustache on. It's been a long time.
Perfect example. Peyton did a Sprint deal, and I think I had a Sprint phone for 20 years and didn't pay a bill. So he took care of me quite well. And I think even a couple members of my family. So, I think my wife, we were pretty loyal to Sprint for a while, and then, that runs out. By the way, you had to pay a phone bill. You're on your own, kiddo. So, yeah, Peyton's always been marketable, but really at the end of the day, those guys are football players. And so if you play well, you have more opportunity. But I think anybody that's trying to worry about the opportunities other than the craft itself probably has their priorities out of line. It's all about what happens, inside the dome, and
Right.
out on the field and on Sunday afternoons and Monday nights. That's where the opportunity for football players comes in. And along the way, you get to meet a lot of great people outside of the sport, and that creates opportunities. But I wouldn't recommend any football player get too worked up about his side gigs. Work on the 3-step drop.
Yeah. Well, they certainly earned their access in that respect. You mentioned some of the products or some of the projects that you've been a part of. Some of them are just you. Some of them are just Eli, just Peyton, a blend. I mean, I mentioned the Caesars commercial, which is one of my favorite campaigns, where it was you guys and JB Smoove. Too good.
That was probably, we've done a lot of stuff, and I'm sure they've done is triple what I've done, but I don't remember a time when Peyton could not stop laughing, and Eli, they would have to film Eli from behind because his just tears were running, because we were at that table. It was actually filmed one of them was filmed in New Orleans at Antoine's. They decorated the Rex room to look like Caesar room. I'm sure there's some Mardi Gras swells that are not happy about that, but we had so much idle time between things, and I could distract JB Smoove and get him off just get him on his game, which would have been off script, and he could talk, and he somehow he had our number, and we were not good at composing ourselves, and he is a funny man. And of course, when he knows he's got you, he doesn't let up, and that people that are producing that commercial are getting aggravated because he's, gone way off on a tangent. And truthfully, a lot of what ended up, making it was all ad-lib stuff. That was not written. We were in a hurry. We had run too long on some other parts of the commercial, and we needed to hurry up and do some things. And that charades and all that was JB and Peyton, Eli, and I just acting and having fun and just reacting to whatever the heck was going wrong. And sometimes, those guys can edit and clip things together and make it look good. So thank God for them.
Well, I mean, between the Manning Hour, the Manning Cast, you guys are doing a lot of ad-libbing all the time, it feels like. You guys are all very good storytellers. Did you get that from your mom more so, or from your dad?
I think my dad is a good storyteller, and my dad remembers things. He remembers great little, I played in a golf tournament in 1977, and, Jack Nicklaus. He just remembers things that happened that are cool, that are interesting. And he's done so much public speaking on the road. People like to hear stories, and one little, you could reference anything. I was in Jacksonville, and he's got, you could say, I got in a car wreck. He's got, there's a cold beer. Just anything can spark him. So I guess we were of the era of driving a lot. We drive up to Mississippi, ride around in cars a lot before the world of phones and movies and stuff. And so we heard a lot of stories, heard how they're delivered, heard them on stage, set them up and finish them. As a matter of fact, the other day he was in Austin, Texas, and he was doing a little Q&A with Vern Lundquist. Mm-hmm. And I texted Archie after, and I said, Archie, my dad, and I said, Dad, how'd the thing with Vern go? And he's like, we killed him. And he's still cocky and confident when they have a good night. And I ran into several people who were there and said they did in fact kill him. So we're it's nice to have benefited from those Archie storytelling.
I believe it that he can work a crowd, and even without being up on stage. I've had the privilege of going to the last 2 National Football Foundation Hall of Fame dinners in Vegas, and your dad notably is the chairman of the National Football Foundation board, the whole thing. And one of my takeaways both years, thing that genuinely blew me away, I think more than anything else, which it's a room packed full of Hall of Fame college players, a lot of whom had amazing pro careers. A lot of the people who are involved in the board are incredible business people in their own right. I mean, multi-billionaires who have started some of the most iconic companies in the country. And the sheer reverence that everyone has for your dad is like just a giant among the room of legends. It's crazy. And it's like there's a line forming there the last 2 years anyway, a line forming for these guys who are legends in their own right to shake your dad's hand. So it's just really something.
Well, it's always neat to have, it's rarely do I go anywhere and people don't ask about him. And
Yeah.
I think that more than anything, he's just kind of stuck to who he is. He didn't really he's never tried to be somebody or really be impressed with anybody other than just good people. And, the good guy rule with him goes a long way. And that's kind of been his advice for us the whole time. Just, if I can tell you to do anything, just be a good guy. And that right there has done well for him.
Well, other than that timeless advice, what is the best thing or maybe most emphasized thing that he taught you and your brothers about leadership, whether that's on the field or off or just in life?
I think most of what he taught is, if you're doing the work, then when you do step up and kind of have to get on somebody, then they'll respect it. If you're, the first one in and the last one out, and then you're dropping the hammer on somebody, he's going to at least say, this guy's, he's paying his dues. He deserves to have that, that spot and be able to, rip me one time. And I know it's kind of interesting, now, Arch now is at a place now where he's the leader of a team. And some of those, you don't really get to be the leader when you're the backup. Quarterback sometimes is the leader of things, and you have to lead in different ways. You can be a yeller, you can be a worker, you can pick your spots carefully. So, but I think it's got to be genuine. And if it looks forced and it doesn't feel right, it doesn't sell.
Well, another place to see all four of you in action together, which I also had the privilege to attend, was the Manning Passing Academy.
Yeah.
I still have that shirt. I'll go to the gym in Dallas, 27 years old, and I have the t-shirt that I got in 2011. I can't lose it if I tried. I've got a few shirts like that, but that's one of them.
Well, text me in about a month, and I'll send you some new swag. I can't have you rolling around there in an old frayed Manning Passing Academy shirt. We got good stuff.
It's gonna have a 14-year gap, but I'm curious for the Manning Passing Academy on its own. Yeah. I don't know if it's for profit, nonprofit, whatever it is. It's a very valuable asset. I mean, it's a true brand of its own. You are like very much the personality of it when you're on the ground. I assume you still do that. You were when I was there as a 8th grader. Making it really fun. You have all of the top college guys there as counselors, which, again, my era, it was like A.J. McCarron, Aaron Murray, Matt Barkley. Like those were the guys who were cruising around. And when you're an aspiring middle school QB, there's nothing cooler than that, like on the planet. And then on top of that, you got the Mannings as like, the ones running the show. How did the Manning Passing Academy come to be? Were you pitched that concept by an outside person, or were you guys sitting around a dinner table one night and decided, let's put this together? I think we could pull it off.
It was really inspired. The Bowden family had a camp that Peyton had attended. So all the, Terry Bowden and Tommy Bowden and Bobby Bowden and all the family got together and had this camp. And Peyton attended and came back and said, we probably ought to do something. And Archie was, kind of on coming out of football. And Peyton was, in college. Eli was an 8th grader, if not younger. And we had our first camp 29 years ago at Tulane. I think we had 200 people. Buddy Tevens was the head coach at Tulane, and Archie, and they partnered, and then it kind of grew to where we needed more field space. And we went to southeastern Louisiana and Hammond, and now we're down in Thibodaux. We have roughly 1,400 campers, 1,400 8th grade through high school seniors that come down for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in late June and sweat their tail off. And we'll have as many as 42 states represented from the camper side. And we've had kids from Finland and all over Canada and Europe. And I mean, we had some that don't even speak English. And then Peyton and Eli now have taken the role of not only, being instrumental to the campers, but also being a huge asset for these college players that come in. We'll have 45 starting college quarterbacks come and be counselors, but also soak up the mojo and the tutelage of Peyton and Eli, and then other coaches. Last year, we have pro coaches sometimes between jobs. We have coaches bring their children. And so it's really a great time. Selfishly, I think it's kind of a family reunion for us. My dad and I, live in a dorm and share a bathroom and a sink, and Peyton and Eli, right there, Peyton, they share one. And so we all have, breakfast in the morning and eating Cheerios and running out the door, putting sunscreen on and ready to try to make the 8 o'clock staff meeting. And so it's it's just a family affair. It's fun. My daughter works the camp now, May, who's, graduated from Virginia. Hyde last year was in charge of Coach Belichick, riding him around in golf carts, trying to make him laugh. And then, Archie's been a camper forever and now a counselor. And it's a family affair. And my dad is very careful in who he selects and lets come back to be a counselor. And it's not often that you will go to an NFL team, and if not, the starter, backup, and third string guy are all Manning Passing Academy alums in some fashion. So we're proud of what it's turned into.
If someone could take many hours and put together a Manning Passing Academy, tree and see where some of those guys have ended up, I'm sure it'd be incredible.
I ran into Kirk Cousins this weekend, and he said he was talking to my dad, and Archie told him that he in his phone, Kirk Cousins is still like Michigan State quarterback, 2011. Like he doesn't even have, he's just, quarterback from, so, and Kirk remembered us doing Q&A in front of, 800 kids. And anyway, it's got a little special place in a lot of people's heart. And we're thrilled that it continues to succeed.
No, it's amazing. And I talked to Yogi Roth, who was very involved with Elite 11 for many years. I think he's still involved in some capacity. He's a broadcaster on Big Ten Network. He's on another episode of the pod. But he was talking about just some of the kind of snapshot moments that he remembers of the first time he saw Jalen Hurts as a 13-year-old or 15-year-old, just absolutely ripping it. And the kind of holy crap moment where you kind of think, all right, we just got a glimpse into the future. That's a guy. Do you have some of those? Have you had some of those types of encounters at that camp over the years?
Yeah, 100%. And, sometimes we don't do a great job of keeping track of who was a camper and who turned on. We just we don't weigh them. We don't time them. We just want everybody to get better. So this appeals to any college, any high school player, wide receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback, who just wants to get better. If you're the most elite of elite guys, you may be better off spending your time going to a college and letting them, recruit you, so to speak. But we just get back to the basics. And that's one of the things, kind of like my dad's personality, the way he is, we haven't changed a lot. It's still 3-step drop, 5-step drop, under center, shotgun, play action, throwing screens. And so just keeping it really fundamental. And yeah, golly, I can remember standing next to Peyton one time when these college kids were throwing, and Matthew Stafford dropped back and threw one, and Peyton was like, yep, he'll be the number one pick. And it was like 2 throws. It was just that simple. I remember watching Josh Allen. We had a quarterback competition. It was raining, and it wasn't lightning, just raining. And he threw a ball 79 yards in the rain and hit the back of a moving golf cart. That was his target. And I was like, goodness gracious. And then you see some guys who can't throw it worth a lick, and like that win. Yeah. We had a quarterback competition. We had pros one year, and the quarterback from Dartmouth won the quarterback competition. And so, they come in all shapes and sizes. They can all now throw it a lot better than you think.
Yeah.
And then, I love to see those guys throw and compete, and then also become students, and then watch how they react. I got great pictures of Arch as a camper with Trevor Lawrence, and just looking at Fromm, and those guys were heroes to him. And so it's fun to have heroes, and then all of a sudden keep growing up, and hopefully you're doing the same thing they're doing.
Well, I sometimes get a little carried away going down the rabbit hole when I prepare for these conversations. Oh. And one of them that I did was that you mentioned that your son Hyde, who is he the youngest of your 3 children? Is he the youngest?
Yeah, he is a freshman at the University of Texas doing the fraternity thing, and he just sent me the nicest text saying he might be the happiest 19-year-old kid in the world. So, box checked.
Not bad. So I heard on another conversation you had, you just kind of hinted at it. You said he was assigned to Coach Belichick. I heard that he made it his mission to make Bill Belichick laugh one time, which is really, that is quite the mission. That's an ambitious goal. And he pulled it off. So maybe he's got some of your, your quippy ability on the ad-libbing and making people laugh.
And when he told me that was his goal, I quickly told him to pick another goal. Do not, Coach Belichick's not going to just warm up to you in a hurry. And apparently he made fun of me in just the right timing, and Belichick got a little snicker, and Hyde walked off. I think he might have left camp with, just high-fiving everybody as if mission accomplished. So, you get to be around a lot of great people, and I think that's, I can't tell you how many times I'm in an airport waiting in line at Southwest Airlines, and some guy comes over who I think is probably, 5 or 6 years younger than me. Is like, Manning Passing Academy, 2006, or what? It's just like, okay, I remember that, and you made fun of my friend for his mustache that he was trying to grow, and I'm like, oh yeah, and so it's great. I love running into people, and I think everybody had a great experience, even though they probably slept for 2 days when they got home and probably had a rash and, the worst suntan of all time, farmer's tan, but it's good memories.
Yeah, no, great memories. I mean, in another little rabbit hole I went down, I literally saw Hyde on a podcast for Texas football, and he's cracking me up because they were asking him, what was it like being your brother's center in high school? Like, did he ever really get on you, or did he ever really yell at you in the huddle? He said, yeah, he would sometimes, but, if he ever really did, I'll just let the nose guard through. It's,
Yeah, Hyde is a very funny boy, and he is destined for to be behind a microphone in some fashion in his life. I think sales or some sort of comedy are probably around the corner. He is. I will say, Arch is absolutely thrilled that they go to the same school together. He can run point and distract and kind of take away a lot of the attention that Arch gets and put it on him, and therefore Arch can just kind of blend in. So they're great brothers, and as parents, Ellen and I always, if we're the happiest when our children are getting along. So far so good.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure that balance is huge for both of them. I'm not going to go deep on anything UT at all, but one broad question from a business perspective and a money perspective, your son Arch could not have entered the collegiate arena at a wilder time. I mean, absolutely insane. I personally think that this set of years we're currently in is like Wild West, anything goes, and that there probably will be some formalization and regulation one way or another that comes into this NIL world and crazy landscape. But what's the just high level? I mean, your kids just seem to have very good heads on their shoulders, and that a lot of good has been instilled in them. But what are you telling him in that regard? I mean, I know like I saw something with Red Bull where it seemed like he made a very thoughtful decision to finally make a long-term somewhat commitment to something, but he's not signing brand deals everywhere he looks. He's not on every billboard in Texas. How did you advise him on that?
I think 2 or 3 things. One, we never talked money ever before he figured out where he wanted to go to college. We never discussed it with the coaches, anybody about that was a factor. He wanted to make a decision on where you want to go to school, where you're going to be happy, where you think you fit in, make friends, like the coaches, and are going to be happy if the whole football thing doesn't work out. Where would you want to go to school? And so he made those decisions on his own. We try to help him and guide him and show him, what this is. You have to go to these places and let them see them because they don't really have taste when you're 16 and 17, 18. You got to know you don't know what you like and don't like. So right. I was glad he made the decision on the merits of where can I go, be happy, get a good education, and give it a run. And if you sit a couple of years, you're still happy there. And then also, Arch said the other day, he goes, Dad, I think I've figured out this NIL stuff. Is if it doesn't feel right in my gut, don't do it. And I said, buddy, that's the way it works for 99% of the world. Yeah. If you're dating a gal and you're not like, I'm not sure this is working, it's probably not working. Or you just get a bad feeling about something. The gut is hard to fight. And I think if you got at least pretty good kind of, you grew up around some things, you kind of know the difference between right and wrong, the gut will lead you the right way. And I think he's had ample opportunities to do some things that just didn't quite make sense for what he's all about and just passed. I think he's really concentrating on, on the task at hand. Back to let's let what on the field. Let that dictate, what comes next. And so he's picking his spots carefully. He likes what he's done so far, and he feels good about it.
That sounds like a wildly mature outlook for a 20-year-old that I certainly would not have had if I found myself in his shoes.
Well, I just paid a couple of his parking tickets, and I said, Venmo me some money because I'm tired of writing checks for this crap in Austin. Hit me with $150. I'm not paying 2 parking tickets right now. I don't know where you're parking. They don't give parking passes to the quarterback, but someone knows your license plate and is running it up. So enough
Oh,
of that.
that sounds more like the college kid that I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're all still, knuckleheads.
So, I mean, I look at across the whole Manning landscape here. You have all of the things that you all knocking my mic over, that you all have your hands in. I mean, even stuff like with your primary job being involved in like the graduate hotels thing, very strategic. I don't know if you want to talk briefly about that, but that's an incredible thing all on its own.
Yeah. Again, surrounding myself with smart people. Some of my best friends are guys I work with, and fortunate enough to be with AJ Capital, with the graduate hotels. I love college towns more than anything in the world. The idea of going and raising capital and putting up hotels in some of the best places in the world where people are passionate about it, where they love history, they love going back and kind of remembering the glory days, and be a part of putting hotels in all the colleges I didn't get into, like Princeton and Stanford and and all the other ones except Ole Miss. But but having a college town hotel and being able to tell stories and bring out the history of that's fun. Another thing we're doing, which I think is even more, probably makes more sense for us as guys who love golf, is we bought these great hotels in Scotland and Northern Ireland and now in the U.S. near some of the greatest golf courses in the world. Buy an old, people love to go over there and play golf and spend all this money in the hotel. Hotels were not very good. So to buy a hotel on the 18th fairway at St. Andrews and restore it and make people who are a lot cooler than you go there and stay there and go, man, this is great, and North Berwick and near Royal County Down, the Slieve Donard and Royal Troon and Dornick, all these wonderful places that are just picturesque and fantasy land to look at and go, well, we can restore this and be a part of it and turn into a business that actually works is really fun. So I think if I was, a part of putting up, some sort of blah hotel in the middle of Midwest U.S., I don't think I'd be very good at it. But when you can really talk about it and you can kind of, hear me talking fast, that means you're passionate about what you do and fortunate to work with a lot of smart people that make my job easier.
Well, I think I also saw AJ involved with that Field and Stream hospitality concept, which interestingly, I've gotten down the rabbit hole on this in my work research too, this concept of content to commerce, which also is the embodiment of like Omaha Productions and everything, where you have the top of your funnel, which you can actually make money on itself, whether it's a Manning cast or a documentary or a YouTube series, and then all of the monetization opportunities where you are then directing that enthusiast audience that you've already identified and grabbed. You're then sending them in and you're making money on the customer acquisition. It's this like unbelievable situation. And the Field and Stream thing, which is owned by Morgan Wallen, right, among others, the actual outdoor magazine, and then you have this experiential physical location that people I would think are going to go crazy over.
Yeah, Morgan and Wallen and Eric Church are our partners on this, and we've created a hotel concept. But also, when I was wearing a sweatshirt the other day during Mardi Gras Field and Stream, and people came over to me, and it just like, again, it's kind of like a college town or a golf trip with your parents. It like tugs at the heartstrings. You go, my dad loved Field and Stream. We had it every day, And somebody told me I used to go in and get a haircut, and they'd have Field and Stream, and they'd have Playboys, and I get the Playboy and put it inside the Field and Stream, and pretend I was reading Field and Stream. I mean, whatever it is, it has stories. It brings back memories, and people get nostalgic. And if we can kind of create memories and make people walk into a spot and say, this is special. This feels good. This feels different than what I'm used to. Then we probably gain a customer.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And I mean, for all of the humility that you three and your parents and everyone has, there's also a lot of very strategic stuff going on. I mean, even you look at, there was something in Bloomberg 5 days ago about how Eli's trying to put together a group to get some ownership in the Giants. That came, I mean, there was the headline that people were initially, who didn't really understand the strategic nature of it, were confused as, why has Eli Manning, why has he been named a private equity partner in 2022 with BVP? And then you fast forward, now private equity teams can take stakes in the NFL. They were the last league to hold out. They find themselves pretty well positioned with a guy with some decent contacts to make things happen in that realm.
I found it particularly funny. I was texting folks. I was at a conference, an investor conference, and Barry Sternlicht, who's a billionaire, real estate, maybe the most dominant real estate mind of our time, is speaking, and Eli is following him with the private equity. I'm like, Eli doesn't know, he's learning a lot of. He told me he was learning GARP that week. He was learning a lot of financial lingo. So again, I'm sure musicians love athletics. Athletes wish they could play guitar. Now athletes wish they could be private equity people, and it's a big circle. So you can blend them all together and have them work together. It works, and I think Eli's not going to do anything that doesn't fit his personality, but what makes sense. He's not going to go in there and start talking about fintech, but something that makes sense that he can speak to where it has something to do with his history and something to do with his expertise. Hey, he's a trustworthy guy, and he surrounds himself with smart people.
Yeah, well, I think all things considered, you guys are all still very young. I think the business empire here is in its early days, so it's super cool to watch and to see what it's all positioned for. I know I've taken enough of your time here. One final question.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about what's been instilled to you guys by your parents, what you've passed down now to your kids in terms of just the way that you parent them and kind of how to be as citizens and just individuals. And a lot of that carries into the way that they act as teammates on the field, off the field. When a business partners with the Manning family, whether it's one of you individually or all together, what is it that you hope is embodied by the Manning brand?
Integrity is probably, integrity, and then just, you want to be grateful. And I think, the good guy rule goes so long. If you're not partners with people that you think are, you're going to have winners and losers. The wind blows a bunch of different ways, and sometimes it's in your face, and sometimes, in timing and cycles and stuff. But if you're around good people you believe in, who work hard and do the right thing, at the end of the day, you're going to sleep well. And I think, if you put in the work, then sometimes that's all you can do. And so, and you feel good about it. And the people that you've bet on or that with you also recognize, you're busting your tail. That's good for me.
All right, that's Cooper Manning. You can catch him in the 11th year of the Manning Hour. Do you have any teasers? Has there been any planning yet, or is it all on the fly?
Well, there's been, after 10 years, it's been the Cooper Manning Hour minus 58 minutes, and there's word that they're going to add a couple extra seconds. So it could be like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So, it's the slowest 2 minutes in sports is what I like to say. So soak up every nugget.
I just hope that we get some return appearances from some of the GOAT episodes, like Cam Newton. I think that's probably
Cam is probably due. And I'd heard just kind of on the street that he needs a pedicure and manicure again. So we could probably, and that robe is not getting any shorter that I wore. So I think it's perfect. I'll reach out to Cam and maybe a second week. Be perfect.
I think you can wear Cam's signature getup these days of the Willy Wonka outfit.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll let him borrow my Don Alisi's hat. It'd be great.
Exactly.
Here we go.
All right, Cooper. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking so much time. Best of luck to Arch this season, and best of luck to all your other kids and everything they're doing. I hope to run into you in New Orleans before too long, but thank you again.
Brent, it's a treat. Best to your family. Thank you.
Thank you.